Signs of alcohol abuse. Signs of alcohol abuse and addiction. Alcohol abuse and addiction can cause lots of health and social challenges. It can lead to injuries and accident. The worst is that abuse, if not controlled, can lead to addiction. It is important that urgent steps be taken to address the abuse before it transforms to the worst stage. The major problem is that it is not easy to say when one is suffering from such an abuse. To help the relations of addicted patients deal with the problem, health experts have come forward with some signs that indicate when one is suffering from alcohol abuse. There are certain signs and evidence that can show when somebody is suffering from alcohol abuse. When one is suffering from alcohol abuse, it simply means that such a person is drinking excessively, more than what he should drink.
Alexa,
These
play my
signs are
Audible.
many, and they do not need to present themselves all the time. If you are able to see 3 or more of such indicators, it could be a sure sign that such a person needs help to quit alcoholism before it results in addiction. When a person has signs of addiction, it is not easy to approach such a person because there is the tendency to conceal the habit. Intolerance. The first sign to look out for to determine whether one is suffering from alcoholism is the level of tolerance. There are ordinary things such a person cannot do, but when he takes alcohol, he will feel high and thinks that he is on top of the world. When such a person gets drunk, he becomes intolerable. This is an early sign that such a person has taken to alcoholism, and steps should be taken at that early stage to help him quit that habit. Such a person will depend on alcohol to feel the same effect. Loss of control over drinking. Another sign that you are suffering from that condition is that you can lose control over the quantity of alcohol you take. There is the tendency to take more than you have initially intended to take. It has reached a stage where you will not be able to call it quits even if you wanted to. You are unable to stop drinking against your own wishes. One of the fallacies about alcohol drinking is that you can quit when you want to. In reality, it is not possible because alcoholism has taken control of you. Even if you want to quit, you will not stop it. Every effort you make to come out of that habit does not yield any positive result. You give most of things you do for alcohol. Alcoholism has taken control over you. Even the normal work you used to do, you no longer pay attention to such because alcoholism will not allow you to do it. If you are used to spending your spare time with friends and relations, or spend quality time with friends at gyms and so on, you will no longer be able to do them because you are spending time in the pub. Alcohol has taken greater part of your focus and energy. Whether you are alone or you are with other people, you will be thinking about alcohol. You will spend more time in the bar. Even the energy you will spend in putting many things to order in your home is not possible because you devote more time with alcohol. You have lost focus on every other thing else, and you have lost your energy as well. Everything about you now revolves around drinking and nothing more. You cannot quit even if it is detrimental to your health. You have gone to the hospital and you know that excessive drinking is the cause of your ailment, but you will still find it hard to quit that habit. It can be the cause of your marriage squabbles, social depression, and other unfavorable health conditions. You continue with the same habit. When this becomes the case, it is a sign of addiction, and something urgent needs to be done before the problem worsens. These are the general factors to look out for. When these are there, it is certain that such a person needs help to quit excessive drinking. There are some behavioral habits that can show that you are addicted to alcohol, and here are some of them. There is always the failure for the addict to meet up with any familial, occupational, as well as social responsibilities. This is because the time he would devote to those things are no longer available. Such time is now spent at the bar. There is always the tendency to be absent or late to any occasion or place of work. When such a person is gainfully employed, you can detect the problem through poor work output. If he has children, the danger is there that he will neglect his children because he will not have time for them. He will be a failure in his place of work, in his family, and in other social responsibilities. He will always be in debt because he needs to burn money to maintain his drinking habit. Such a person cannot be predicted because of inconsistent behavior. Physical signs. Apart from these behavioral signs, there are physical signs that can show that a person is alcohol addicted, and here are some of them. He can get punctured marks. This can arise when he falls or bruises the body because of excess alcohol. Moreover, there could be the case of drowsiness, and this arises due to lack of coordination. Alcohol can lead to depression. If you check the eyes, you will see evidence of a drug through the pinned or tiny pupil. It may look like the person abuses hard drugs such as opioids, and that is not the case. In addition to that, there could be eye movement disturbances. When these physical evidences are there, they are signs that the patient is highly addicted to alcohol and that urgent help is necessary. Medical signs. There are medical signs that show that one is alcohol addicted. Normally, during lab tests, there are positive findings after a breakdown of urine to its various components. Moreover, hypertension could arise, and this is a medical sign that one is addicted to alcoholism. There could be other signs, such as enlarged red blood cells, as well as GGT, and so on. When one is suffering from alcohol abuse and addiction, the next thing is to help such a person to give up the habit. This involves many things. Chapter 2. The reason alcohol is so addictive. Taking a glance at world history, humans have shown a significant dependence on consuming various types of liquor since ancient times. Alcohol consumption has become such a prominent aspect to everyday civilized human living to the extent that the substance is the first ever to be recorded regarding misuse for its euphoric effect, well before the chemical isolation and introduction of cocaine, heroin, and marijuana. Civilized human history has proven with solid evidence that alcohol is naturally an addictive substance. Our bodies clearly have a tendency to favor the intoxicating beverage. While there's no question or doubt that the effects of alcohol on the human mind and body trigger feelings of relaxation and euphoria, little is known concerning what pushes a person to keep going for the mood-lifting enhancer to the point of submission in consuming more and more of the substance just to feel the desired effect. We can say for sure that people do not become addicted to alcohol solely for the taste. If this were the case, then people could simply sip a certain amount every hour on the hour each day, and the body wouldn't feel the intoxicating effects. Tolerance would not have taken place, and addiction, therefore, would not be an issue. It's also safe to say that this chapter would have easily been about the science of addiction towards orange juice or milk had either ingredient of those produced an intoxicating effect, instead of ethyl alcohol. Alcohol addiction, or alcoholism, is a complex disorder that requires several forces at work which cause the addiction to completely take over. In other words, the factors contributing to the development of alcohol addiction are multifarious and contain many angles. While there are many psychological and social factors involved that lead a person to alcohol addiction, this chapter will focus in more on how the body becomes addicted to alcohol once the substance starts to process within our bodies. The biology of alcohol addiction can be split into two parts: physiologic and metabolic. Metabolic refers to what the body does to alcohol once introduced to the organic system. Physiologic refers to the alternate sequence, what effect alcohol has on the body after the occurrence of oxidation. On a molecular level, alcohol's chemical compound is very small and extremely hydrophilic. Therefore, it can easily cross the blood-brain barrier to spread into the water consisting in our tissues, organs, muscles, and even the tiny amount contained in our bones, leading to widespread effects in the brain. Once present in the body, ethyl alcohol is rapidly metabolized due to its superpotent hydrophilic nature by brain and liver enzymes. This process forms an active metabolite known as acetaldehyde, a known carcinogenic and neurotoxic compound producing intoxication. Metabolically, alcohol is destroyed in the body through means of oxidation, the process by which all foods release their calories to produce energy. Unlike most vitamins and minerals from foods, alcohol's rate of oxidation does not depend or rely on the energy exerted by the body and requires no prior digestion before it can be fully absorbed. Alcohol is further unique as a euphoric substance in that, just like consuming solid foods, the liquor can be used to provide a sufficient source of caloric energy within the body that, through repeated consumption, can develop into a pattern that replaces regular food, since energy is being provided regardless of what is consumed. This is a matter of straightforward metabolic dynamics in human biology. However, such dietary deficiencies may lead to chronic nerve degeneration that can be maintained only through further use of alcoholic substances, which can be terribly difficult to withdraw from on an organic level. Physiologically, alcohol functions as a depressant that acts on the central nervous system, i.e., the brain, by elevating the neurotransmitter in the dime-sized area that is the nucleus accumbens, which produces the feel-good pleasure chemical dopamine at an accelerated rate. The effect of such a rapid production of dopamine may be compared to releasing the brakes rather than flooring the gas pedal. The intoxicated person gets a sensation of feeling on top of the world as many of their normal social inhibitions start to fade, while in turn acting on personal impulse. However, the previously intoxicated person often fails to correlate intoxication with outlandish behavior by asserting that alcohol consumption, on the contrary, enhances user perception by giving way for an inflated feeling of competence and self-confidence. This causes a deeper dependence on the substance that usually results in an addictive lifestyle towards the need and consumption of alcohol. Intoxication also dislocates the distribution of salt balance within the body, giving rise to a hungering sensation for further consumption of alcohol. Additionally, alcohol affects the pituitary gland, whose hormonal secretions influence heightened sexual arousal. Putting all of our biological facts together in simple order, the science behind why our bodies become addicted to alcohol can be defined in two separate components. The metabolic portion imposes that ethyl alcohol has the ability to act as a food source once in the body, which could develop into a need for more source of that particular energy, just as the body continually needs energy from food throughout its lifespan. The physiologic portion entails that alcohol impairs cognition through depressing areas of the brain responsible for motor function and pleasure, increasing sexual desire while disrupting the body's natural water balance to create a systemic sensation of further needing to consume the chemical for adequate homeostasis. Chapter 3. Alcoholism, is it addiction or disease? Alcohol is among the commonly abused drugs in the society, considering that it's easily accessible as long as one is above the required age by law. It is also generally inexpensive, thus affordable to many people. The consumption of alcohol is also accepted in society and is widely advertised and promoted. Alcoholism is defined by the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, NIAAA, as a disorder involving alcohol use, which is viewed as a condition that involves distress or harm caused to oneself by the excessive consumption of alcohol. This, therefore, indicates that alcoholism is a chronic state that alters the motivation and memory systems of a brain. Disorders related to consumption of alcohol do not happen abruptly, but instead develop gradually over a period of time and are highly influenced by risk factors which expose the individual more to the disorders. Risk factors that may have an influence on alcoholic disorders include an existing addiction history of the individual, meaning they have gotten addicted to other substances before. Stress factors in one's life which predispose them to alcohol use as a coping mechanism, which ends up being destructive. A history of abuse or neglect, especially during young and tender ages of the involved party. Having family members who also suffer from alcoholism or are addicted to similar drugs. Social awkwardness where an individual is not fully accepted by the society around them. When alcohol consumption is influenced by these risk factors, the involved victim continues to tolerate more amounts of alcohol beyond the recommended standard consumption quantity. The recommended quantity consumption for men is 5 drinks a day or 14 drinks in a week, while in women, 3 drinks per day is considered average. The abuse of alcohol in conjunction with the risk factors leads the person to be increasingly tolerant to increased alcohol consumption. When the victim depends on alcohol for normal day-to-day functioning, alcoholism is developed and inducted into their lives, and it becomes challenging to opt out. Thus, they cannot function without it, and this is called alcoholism. Signs and symptoms of alcoholism. The individual is unable to quit the drinking act even when they do not want to do it, since their normal functioning depends on it. The victims cannot control time used consuming alcohol, or even the amounts consumed. The affected seem distracted and cannot focus on a certain task or thought processes without being distracted. Inability to adhere to commitments in the individual's life, meaning they fail to complete their duties or do what is expected of them at home or even in their workplaces. The affected individual loses interest in activities that they would normally indulge in before the alcoholism kicks in. Alcohol tolerance, which involves the need for more alcohol since the user does not want to lose the effect that the alcohol has on them, meaning that they want to maintain an all-time high from the drug. Destruction of personal or interpersonal relationships, which involves the alcoholic and those around them. Symptoms of withdrawal are seen when the alcoholic is deprived of the substance, which may even involve mental and physical breakdowns. Alcoholism is viewed as a chronic illness of the brain, meaning that it cannot be overcome using medicinal compounds and cannot be vaccinated against. Some of the known triggers of alcoholism are challenges and stress factors in one's life, the emotional aspect of the individual's life. People that are affected by alcoholism tend to display behaviors that are different from non-alcoholics, and these differences in behavior are experienced earlier on before the alcoholism fully engulfs them. These behaviors may be subtle and very easy to miss unless observed closely. For example, alcoholic individuals are okay with drinking alone, and they do not seem to know when enough is enough, as they keep drinking, even when they subconsciously or consciously want to stay sober or regulate their alcohol intake. Alcoholics, or potential alcoholics, tend to incorporate alcohol into their daily plans and activities so that they do not stay without alcohol in their system. This planning may often happen subconsciously with no conscious thought, meaning that they don't notice these actions as anything out of the ordinary. Majority of individuals that have experienced alcoholism say that they did not choose to be addicted to it, and if there was a simple and immediate alternative to being alcoholics, they would not hesitate to switch to it and leave their alcoholic ways. This clearly shows that addiction to alcohol is not a decision that one makes, because a choice would require rational decision-making, which is not the case with people who get addicted. However, alcoholism cannot be termed as a disease either, since this means that it would purposely require medical intervention to reverse. But this is not the case, since other affected individuals have been able to conquer it without medical treatment. Conclusion: alcoholism is therefore not an inborn condition or disorder, but is a condition that an individual picks up subconsciously when indulging in alcoholic ways, and the habit builds up over time to bring about chronic alcoholism. It, however, does not solely depend on alcohol consumption, but develops in collaboration with the risk factors, which end up making an individual more prone to alcoholism. Chapter 4: The Psychology of Alcohol Abuse. A majority of people consider alcohol a form of leisure. They use it to help calm their nerves and relax after a busy day at work. It may also be used to tune up the party mood in celebrations such as birthdays and weddings. According to health experts, people who take alcohol moderately have nothing to worry about. Surprisingly, it holds several health benefits from them, including burning body fat, fighting colds, strengthening the bones, and lowering the risk of cardiovascular diseases. Moderate drinking for men stands at a maximum of 2 glasses a day, whereas women are only advised to take 1. No one ever plans to become an alcoholic. It mostly starts out all innocent, a way to entertain themselves. So, when does one cross the line? When exactly does drinking become a problem? Reportedly, a significant number of alcoholism cases have been associated with psychological issues. Such include 1. Trauma. Exposure to some events or experiences may leave one with an intense flood of emotions that may be difficult to handle. Such events include experiencing loss, natural disasters, accidents, regular treatment from an illness, and violence, among others. People who have undergone such traumatic experiences are usually advised to seek counseling for guidance through the healing process. For most who forego counseling, even if it may seem like they have recovered, occasional relapses are quite common. Without proper treatment and help, victims may end up exploring harmful solutions, such as taking alcohol to help them deal with pent-up emotions. 2. Abuse. Abuse is defined as unfair treatment to an individual. There are various forms of abuse, including physical, sexual, emotional, mental, financial, and cultural. Sometimes it may be difficult to notice the impact of abuse on an individual, but with time and for prolonged cases of abuse, its effects become more pronounced. Victims of abuse may develop anxiety, social withdrawal, insomnia, eating disorders, mental health issues, regression, etc. Additionally, they may develop substance use disorders. Alcohol is among the main substances abused in such situations, attributed to its wide availability. To cope with their feelings of insignificance, victims of abuse turn to alcohol to help escape their reality. If the issue at hand is not addressed through proper means, such as rescue or counseling, becoming an alcoholic may not be far off the horizon. 3. Depression. It is one of the most common types of mental disorders worldwide, with millions of people suffering from it every year. Depression is defined as persistent feelings of sadness, worthlessness, hopelessness, restlessness, and frustration. Treating depression involves incorporating health diet, getting adequate sleep, regular exercise, putting down feelings and thoughts in a journal, therapy with a counselor, taking medication. However, not many people have the courage to admit that they are suffering from depression, hence do not acquire the necessary help. Instead, they seek alternative ways to help solve it, including alcohol, hoping it can help drown out depression. While at first it may seem to help by offering temporary relief, constant use gets them hooked, doubling their problems. In such cases, if willing to reform, victims can seek treatment for co-occurring disorders, i.e., alcoholism and depression. 4. Stress. It is in human nature to tackle stressful situations in life at one point or another. Everyone has their own ways of coping with stress. To some, alcohol is most appealing during such times. They say it brings about a numbing and exciting feeling, which helps them not focus on their problems. However, the solution is only temporary. Once the effects of alcohol wane, the stress comes back full on, maybe even worse than before, mostly leaving the user with a deep feeling of emptiness. In a bid to get the relaxed and excited atmosphere back, the user may decide to indulge in more alcohol. If this becomes a habitual way of coping with stress, such people usually end up alcoholics without even knowing it. Researchers have established that alcohol actually ends up causing more problems than solutions during such times. While it may seem to provide some sort of relief during such times, over the long term, it compounds the present problems by bringing about alcohol-related disorders. 5. PTSD. It stands for a post-traumatic stress disorder. It defines a situation whereby a victim experienced a traumatic event or experience and keeps having flashbacks and unpleasant memories about it. Doctors consider it normal to remember bad experiences after they occur, but if the intrusive thoughts last longer than a month and do not subside in intensity, you could be suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Common signs and symptoms of PTSD include recurrent and unpleasant thoughts about an event or experience, constant nightmares, withdrawal from family and friends, phobia to related objects, people, and places, insomnia, trouble in concentration, overwhelmingly uncontrollable behaviors such as anger outbursts, getting startled and frightened easily. If one uses alcohol to handle PTSD, they may only worsen the situation, as alcohol is known to make PTSD more severe. Alcohol is known to depress the central nervous system, causing one to indulge in risky behavior, such as driving under the influence or inflicting violence. Prolonged abuse of alcohol eventually leads to addiction. Conclusion. Unlike other causes of alcoholism, psychological issues are more difficult to treat. This is because it remains up to the patient to first admit they have a problem and seek help. If treatment meant to address alcoholism is to be effective, the reasons behind it should first be investigated and analyzed. After one recovers from alcoholism, the underlying factors should also be dealt with. Otherwise, the person may end up in a far much worse situation. Once they realize their coping mechanism cover has been lifted off, and the problems that caused them to turn to it are still as real. Nevertheless, most people suffering from the above psychological issues prefer to choose to keep it to themselves and rather turn to substances to help them cope. Hence, such factors remain the main contributors to alcoholism worldwide. Chapter 5. Alcohol will damage you. Alcohol abuse, short and long-term effects on the body. As soon as signs of alcohol abuse begins to manifest, the best thing is to find a way of helping such a person come out of it. If that is not done, it will lead to another stage, which is addictive. When that becomes the case, one can begin to notice the effect. There are short-term and long-term effects, and you can notice all these on the body. The effect varies, and it depends on the quantity of alcohol that is taken, as well as the physical condition of the individual. Within a short time, you will begin to see the effects, and here is some of the short-term effects of alcohol abuse. Short-term effects to the body. When one becomes a habitual drinker, it does not take time before the effects begin to manifest. Here are some of the short-term effects. Relaxation. The short-term effect is the feeling of relaxation. This is the sign that the person is loosening up. Euphoria will set in, and it will be evident to people around that the person is gradually losing control. Diarrhea, nausea, and vomiting. When one takes to alcohol, it can affect the stomach. Because of that, there could be such problems like diarrhea, nausea, and even vomiting. This is because there is a way the thing can irritate the stomach. When stomach linings are irritated, it can simply trigger the problem. Inadequate breathing. Another effect is shallow breathing. This is because of the fact that alcohol is central to the nervous system. It can slow down the physiological functions of the brain and retard heartbeat rate as well as breathing. If this becomes the situation, there is the need to put it under control because it can lead to death. Impaired hearing, vision, and slow reflexes. It can also affect your senses because alcohol, as said earlier, can affect the CNS control. The brain will no longer be sharp. You can notice the effect in slower reflexes, reduced hearing ability, as well as slurred speech, and so on. Your eyes will always be clouded, and the tendency is that you will no longer see clearly. Sleepiness and fatigue. Alcohol is one of the depressants. When you overdose it, it can calm you because of the calming effect. You will sleep. When you wake up, you become to feel weakness and drowsiness. Fatigue will even set in. Memory lapses. There is also the problem of memory lapses and blackouts. If you are a heavy drinker, you can suffer from this problem. They no longer have memories of their own when they are heavy, and they can hardly remember anything you discuss with them. Loss of inhibitions as well as clouded thinking. When one becomes a heavy drinker, there are the chances of neural impairment. When this becomes the case, it will reduce inhibition. You will no longer think very well, and you will be in a deceptive condition. When you lose control of yourself, you can take an aggressive behavior. The fact is that such a person will begin to exhibit character which he is not known for. It is the effect of alcohol. Change in mood. There is also the possibility of a mood swing. When you take alcohol, you begin to feel the effect as it will release endorphins and dopamine to the brain. It can cause a head rush. However, this does not last for a long time, as the person will regain his mood within a short time. These are the negative short-term effects. These effects do not need to be there all the time. If 3 or 4 of these conditions are there, they are indications that one is beginning to suffer from alcohol. If it is not controlled in time, it can even lead to effects that are more dangerous. Long-term effects on the body. If one continues with this habit unabated, it will soon begin to take a big toll on the body. It can lead to destruction. Here are some of the long-term side effects of heavy drinking on the body. At this time, the person has become addicted to alcohol. The brain is now disposed to that. It leads to tolerance. The person now cannot live without drinks, and he will drink plenty in order to have the same effect. In fact, such a person will now depend on alcohol in order to survive. This can be fatal because it can lead to other negative health consequences. Diabetes. When the drinking habit continues, there will be the fear and danger that such a person can develop diabetes. Research has shown that it can lead to type 2 diabetes. This is because alcohol has plenty of carbohydrates content in them. When you overuse it, it can affect other parts of the body and it can cause diabetes. It can damage the pancreas, which has something to do with insulin level in the body. Liver damage. One of the health complications of alcohol is that it can lead to health complications such as liver damage. When this becomes the problem, the chances of developing liver cancer is there, and it can cause cirrhosis. Research has shown that this is one of the worst health challenges affecting heavy drinkers in America. High blood pressure. It can lead to the worst stage of high blood pressure, which is the chronic high blood pressure. When this becomes the case, it has taken a big toll on the health. If care is not taken, it will soon affect the other parts of the body, such as arteries, heart, and kidney. The worst is that it can lead to stroke and so on. Chances of the person developing a heart attack are there, and it can lead to sudden death. Causes ulcers. Moreover, it can cause both intestinal and stomach ulcers. The effect keeps accumulating. At a time, it can lead to more complicated conditions such as ulcers. Chances are there that cancer could follow up. It can as well damage the heart. These are some of the long-term effects. If something is not done to stop the problem, it can lead to death. Chapter 6. Codependency. Codependency is the over-reliance on a partner both emotionally and psychologically, or the dysfunctional guiding relationship whereby people support others with their addiction problems, mental health to regain their sobriety. Codependency is also referred to as relationship addiction because persons with codependency keep relationships that are abusive, emotionally unstable, and one-sided. Originally, codependency was thought to be among families of people suffering from substance abuse, but it has since evolved to involve other forms of dysfunctional relationships. Codependency also shows signs and symptoms like an illness, and therefore one should learn how to recognize the signs of codependency and how it can affect people. Signs and symptoms of codependency. Some factors have been identified to correlate with codependency, and they include depression, stress. Codependency leads to stress, and other factors lead to anxiety and fear that may later develop to depression and despair. Anxiety. People often have a fear of always being judged, rejected by everyone, and being left alone and end up making mistakes that deter their sobriety. Dysfunctional of families. Low self-esteem. People often don't view themselves as good enough and compare themselves to others. They suffer from shame, guilt, and perfectionism. But if everything is good and you have confidence in self, that boosts individuals' esteem. Unable to resist. Often people want to please the people they care about, but have in mind that you have a choice to give care to them. Do not find it difficult to say not to bother taking. Put your interests first, then accommodate the needs of those who won't care. Fear of abandonment. Codependency affects people, especially married couples, parents, friends, siblings, workmates, or the people who associate with alcohol and drug abuse. Codependency not only affects people living or in a relationship with people suffering from addictions, but also can be seen in people with connections with terminally or mentally ill patients. Dysfunctional families can lead to codependency, where the members of the family end up suffering from fear, anger, management issues, shame, and pain. Some problems often lead to dysfunctional families, like a member of the family struggling to addiction to alcohol, gambling, sex, and other substance abuse. The family might have gone through abuse physically, sexually, or emotionally that may lead to the dysfunction of the family, therefore restraining to codependency. Dysfunctional families fail to acknowledge the presence of the underlying problems. They do not communicate and confront the issue, and therefore the family hold back their emotions and end up neglecting their needs. They focus all their attention to the family member that is suffering or addicted. The codependent individual gives up the requirements to look after the afflicted persons. The codependent often lose interests in their own needs and desires, and also lose a sense of their life by putting other people's interests before their own. Codependent people behavior. They find it so difficult to be themselves, and they try to find other things to make them feel better, therefore lowering their self-esteem. Alcohol and other drugs are the easiest ways to handle better, but slowly people end up in addiction. Some people may not resolve to alcohol, but they develop other compulsive behaviors like gambling, workaholics, and miscellaneous sexual activities. Caregiving can become compulsive for the person looking after those faced with difficulties. The caregiver has the best intentions for their family members, and they end up becoming protectors of their family. For instance, an alcoholic husband may be covered by his wife. A mother may give false excuses for their children, and a father may do anything to aid their children from the harsh outcomes of their actions. The major problem is that all these attempts to help those who are experiencing difficulties in dealing with their habits is they get used to the services of their caregivers and they continue with their alcoholism and drug abuse and other destructive behaviors. Therefore, too much of caretaking can be poisonous to the recovery of those afflicted and can serve as a deterrent for them to be sober again. Characteristics of codependent people: anger management issues, lack of self-trust, dishonesty, poor communication of their thoughts, interests, and feelings, and this becomes a problem if the codependent do not know their beliefs. Poor decision-making, extreme desires for recognition and approval. Codependency can be treated, but it is challenging as it has its foundation from childhood events and therefore affects the psychological growth of a person. The treatment involves the examination of a person's childhood problems, how they relate to the current damaging behavioral patterns. The procedure for codependent persons involves education, experiential groups, therapy that helps the codependents regain their sense of self, and also to identify the underlying problems that may hinder the codependent in defeating the behavior. Treatment through therapy also helps the codependent to overcome the feelings that had been troublesome since their childhood. Therapy also helps dysfunctional families with reconstructing the dynamics of their family. Group therapy is ideal of alcohol and drug abuse person recover through getting to share their experiences and how they have cost them. It is not easy to change destructive behavior, but once you understand, it becomes the first step to effecting change. The education of codependents and their family members on the process of addiction is essential towards the recovery. Bottom line: learn to control the problem and do not become too attached to the problem that you become codependent. The factors that will foster the continuity of the harmful behaviors need to be identified and stopped. The codependent should put their interest and needs first and embrace their feelings before those of the addicts. This is possible by the codependent learning to say no to the responsibility of caretaking. Saying no does not mean they are not loving, but they are tough and also learn to rely on themselves. Coping with the effects of codependency includes learning and understanding codependency, and seeking more information and assistance from professionals to help codependents live healthily. Chapter 7: The Effects on Family. Alcoholism just does not affect the user, but his or her career and family. The damage done by this substance is not localized. It can spread like a fire. This is because once one gets into addiction, the turnaround is hard. Alcoholism can be avoided by just simply avoiding taking alcohol, as simple as that. Most people get into alcohol due to various reasons. The question is this the only solution or luxury you can turn to? The most affected in the life of the alcoholics is the family and their career. The family ranges from the existing down to the unborn members of the family. Relatives, too, are not left out, as they form a pillar in a family, too. Family members are the closest people to the sufferer, and the closer they are, the more and more they become victims of pain and disappointment from the alcoholic. On the other side, the career of the person is affected as this person will not focus appropriately as they ought to. They may ruin their careers by this vice that they have turned to, and eventually becoming unemployed. Here are some of the effects of alcoholism. 1. Domestic violence. An alcoholic may turn to causing violence at home by either word of mouth, emotional abuse, or physically. As their brains are intoxicated, they do not relate well with their family members, and once they are told of the effects, they may find the other person not right. Spouses may end up getting hurt in this, as the other partner who is the alcoholic may come back home and beat their partner. The worst part is that this may even occur to their own kids whom they are supposed to love and care for. The violence, once extended to the kids, will certainly affect their emotional life and connection to their parent. 2. Job loss leading to poverty. Addiction comes with the price that you have to get alcohol into your system in order to function normally. This means that on a daily basis, the person has to buy alcohol and may lead to job loss, or if the person was self-employed, they may not work efficiently as they are intoxicated while at work. Once the person has no source of income, and let's say the family depends on them for a daily bread, this may lead to poverty, financial instability, and debt. Alcoholism may extend to the person being stressed out and take all their savings and drink. The family is on the receiving end, as there is no money to pay for utility bills and other family affairs. 3. Broken families and ties. Most spouses cannot cope with the other being an alcoholic. Even if they try and let them see the light in quitting, the alcoholic may become bitter about it and end up being violent. As the kids also are getting emotionally hurt, the other spouse may opt to save their kids as well as themselves from the danger leading to splits and divorce. This doesn't only affect the spouse. The other relatives may opt not to get involved in the life of the alcoholic, as they are not happy about the habit that they have formed. Parents, too, may decide because their kids have turned out to be alcoholics, they will just let them be and denounce them. Workmates, on the other hand, may start cutting ties as they do not want any association with the drunk. This makes one become a drunk loner. 4. Infidelity. As alcoholism is a behavior that turned out to be a habit, this may lead to certain immoralities. Marriages are affected, as one may be likely to cheat while under the influence. This is quite immoral and comes with guilt as well as STDs. They are intoxicated, not thinking straight, and once this is done, the other partner comes to know of it, resulting to mistrust and even divorce. Acts such as rape may also occur while one is under the influence. 5. Children growing up. Alcoholism on both parents may lead to their children having to grow up, as they may lack support from their parents. They may have to start taking care of themselves at an early age, as their parents are not there for them as they are supposed to be. The elder kids may have to be parents to the younger ones, as they have been forced by the circumstances. As the kids grow up, they may have to get emotionally hard as they watch their parents suffer from addiction. They may have to start hustling for their own at a very early age, which is child abuse, as their parents cannot provide for them their necessities as they only spend on alcohol. 6. Unplanned pregnancies. Alcoholism may result to unplanned pregnancies, which are quite common. On the side of the man, once he becomes aware of this, he may deny, as they may have a family elsewhere. The woman herself, suffering from addiction, may find it hard to stop, as this is not something you can stop in one day. The unborn child who depends on their mother for blood, nutrients, and oxygen. Alcohol may be passed to it during pregnancy. This issue leads to the child being born with certain defects physically and their mental function being degraded, This has led to children being poor in class. 7. Ruins own status. One may ruin their status while at work because they are alcoholics. The stench of alcohol is quite easy to smell, and this sells them off. People may not like your habit, and this make them not respect you, even if you are in top management. One may even miss out on career opportunities, such as promotions, as they have ruined their status and cannot be trusted with a higher position. 8. Social embarrassment. Alcoholics may embarrass their family members in front of family and while at work. As they are under the influence in public, they may fall down, fight with their partners, or people at work, and this is not good. Due to addiction, people have been seen to sleep in trenches on the road and even being roughed up due to them not paying the bill. They may even get tagged names of being alcoholics. 9. Loss of family members and workmates. Addiction may be suicidal, as you are killing yourself slowly if you don't take the right measures and turn around. The addict may suffer from various diseases due to alcohol and eventually die. The family and work people are affected as they have lost one of their members. Alcoholics may lack self-esteem also and find no reason to live, hence committing suicide. They may also cause acts of violence that may result to death. 10. Loss of memory. While at work, one uses the brain to perform the skill or profession they are good at. Alcohol kills brain cells, and addiction may be the cancer to this. It will lead to memory loss, and one may have to be laid off from work as they can no longer function properly. Alcoholism is a disease which can be cured and prevented. The only way to go about is just be of sound mind and make decisions that are right. If you are an addict, this can be cured as there are rehabilitation centers that help out in this. Some of them are even free through government's efforts to help kick out alcoholism. Chapter 8. Alcohol abuse during pregnancy. Pregnant women and those trying to get pregnant should refrain from taking alcohol until the baby is born. Alcohol consumption can put the unborn baby at risk while leaving the pregnant woman's health in danger. How does taking alcohol affect an unborn baby? When a pregnant woman takes any kind of an alcoholic drink, the alcohol reaches the fetus via the umbilical cord. Since the unborn child has not developed and cannot withstand the effects of alcohol, its brain, CNS, legs, heart, arms, and external genitals are affected. If the pregnant mother continues taking alcohol, the constant exposure of the fetus to alcohol causes cumulative effects that delay the normal growth of the unborn child while still putting the child at risk of having intellectual, emotional, physical, and mental problems. What are the consequences of drinking alcohol while pregnant? The effects of alcohol on an unborn child vary depending on a number of factors, such as the period of time that the pregnant mother had been drinking and how often she took alcohol. Therefore, these effects can either be long-term or short-term. This means that the complications can be identified within a short period of time or take years before they manifest after the baby is born. Nevertheless, alcohol abuse during pregnancy has numerous effects that include 1. Miscarriage or stillbirth. Although miscarriages and stillbirths can occur naturally due to the state of health of the pregnant mother, some are associated with alcohol consumption when pregnant. When a fetus dies within the first 20 weeks of pregnancy, that's known as miscarriage. However, if the baby dies after 20 weeks of pregnancy, that's known as a stillbirth. Alcohol consumption affects the hormonal balance of a pregnant mother, thus affecting pregnancy, and this causes a miscarriage or a stillbirth. The stage at which the pregnant mother started taking alcohol can determine whether she will have a stillbirth or a miscarriage. 2. Premature birth. Premature birth occurs when a baby is born before the mother reaches 37 weeks of pregnancy. Unlike miscarriages or stillbirths, a prematurely born child can survive when incubated, although they can have developmental problems later in life. When a pregnant mother takes alcohol, her body functions change, causing contractions, especially when the hormones have an imbalance due to poor health or appetite of the pregnant mother. 3. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, FASDS. FASDS are physical and behavioral problems that are not only incurable but also can result in lifelong effects. Some health problems associated with FASDS include the inability to control emotions, impaired cognitive abilities, and trouble completing everyday tasks or communicating. According to health experts, FASDS affect the brain of the unborn child. As a result, these children might suffer from mental disorders later in life. If a child has FASDS, there are several distinctive disorders that emerge. Some of the physical features associated with FASDS are low birth weight, poor skeletal development, decreased growth of the fetus, and even decreased the growth of the baby later in his or her childhood. A smooth ridge between the upper lip and the nose. The child is shorter than the peers. Cardiac issues. Vision problems and/or decreased hearing abilities. Renal agenesis. The child can be born without the kidneys. Hypoplasia. These are kidney developmental problems that can cause renal failure. Delayed development, e.g., the child takes longer to start talking or walking. Learning disabilities or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. Decreased IQ scores when compared to normal children. The child has a small head which can cause cognitive issues later in life. 4. Birth defects. In most cases, birth defects form within the first trimester of pregnancy, and they impact how the body of the child looks or functions. Some birth defects associated with alcohol abuse include Down syndrome, clubfoot, heart problems, and spina bifida. Some birth defects can be treated using medicine or surgery, while others are difficult to manage. Therefore, if the defect cannot be treated, the child will be affected by the defect throughout his or her life. The only way a pregnant mother can reduce the chances of her child having birth defects or other harmful consequences is by living an alcohol-free lifestyle during and after birth until the child has developed fully. Drinking alcohol not only affects the unborn child, but also the health of a pregnant mother. Therefore, pregnant mothers who are fighting alcohol addiction should seek professional help instead of trying to do it on their own. Chapter 9. The Road to a Sober Life. There are millions of people in the United States alone that abuse alcohol. At one point, these people are going to reach rock bottom. Some people may crumble and succumb to this disease, while others may choose a road to recovery. While recovering from addiction and living a sober life is admirable, it is going to be anything but easy. Getting sober is one of the hardest things a person will be, and staying sober is a daily challenge. There are some ways that a person can get sober, and while the path will be hard, they will be able to stay sober. Getting sober is hard. A person is not going to be able to just stop drinking one day. At this point in their life, the bottle may be all that they have. Most people are in denial about how bad their problem is. They may think that they are just a social drinker and that they do not have a serious problem. A person has to be willing to change, and they need to put in the work to keep up with their sober lifestyle. If a person is not ready to change their life, change will not happen. When a person is willing to stop drinking, they may need to go through a medical detox in order to be safe. Alcohol withdrawal can be deadly. A person has to be mentally prepared to deal with the symptoms. There will be physical pain. A person will be irritable, and they may feel sick. There will be emotional pain as well. A person will not know their identity, and they may not know how to deal with emotional trauma. There is also some shame and guilt that they may be feeling from what they are putting their loved ones through. This is going to be tough, and a person has to be strong enough and have a good support system in order to get through it. When recovering from addiction, a person has to be willing to change the way that they think. They are going to need to develop a completely new set of coping skills to deal with challenging situations. Life is hard for everyone. Some people are able to deal with it while others turn to substance abuse. The recovering addict has turned to substance abuse in the past, and this is how they learned how to cope with difficult situations. They need to be willing to develop a new set of skills and a new way of thinking. A person has to be willing to give up their old habits and develop new ones. This is one of the most difficult things to do. When a person has a hard day or if they are facing difficult situations, they may want to start drinking. This is where their new skills need to come into play. A person must be willing to ask for help. They may need constant counseling in order to stay sober. They need to learn how to get through life without drinking. This may take a lot of therapy in order to develop these new coping skills. When a person is looking to stay sober, they need to have a solid plan. They are going to have weak moments and moments when they are going to want to drink. A person has to remember the pain they were going through, and they will need to develop a course of action for what they are going to do when they are about to pick up that drink. Most people think that when they gave up drinking, that they can still drink in moderation from time to time. This is the biggest mistake they can make. A person will not be able to go back to social drinking or having an occasional drink. If a person is ready to have a drink, they are not ready to embrace the sober lifestyle. Getting and staying sober is not going to be an easy thing at all. A person will need self-discipline and will need support from loved ones in order to get sober and stay sober when the items get tough. Chapter 10: Detox and Withdrawal. Alcohol detoxification and withdrawal. Alcoholism has far-reaching consequences that may lead to death or other severe detriments. However, all is not lost as there are means for withdrawal from alcoholism. Businesses and other sectors might be forced to carry out drug tests when recommended for during moments when there are far-reaching consequences. When faced by such an eventuality, it is important that you seek for withdrawal mechanisms to avoid failing such drug tests. Eventually, there are far-reaching consequences you have to face during the process, and you have to learn how to deal with such a case. Here are some insights of several things you need to learn about detoxification and withdrawal. What causes alcohol withdrawal? Side effects of withdrawal incorporate exhaustion and queasiness. Individuals who drink intensely over an all-inclusive time frame build up a resilience to liquor. At the point when this occurs, an individual needs to drink increasingly more to feel liquor's belongings. In the long run, somebody with resilience to alcohol can build up a physical and mental reliance on it. This implies an individual should then continually drink to forestall withdrawal. The manifestations of liquor withdrawal can be severe and even lethal. Along these lines, medicinally administered detox is always suggested for liquor withdrawal. Side effects of withdrawal can be mental and physical. How much, how regularly, and to what extent somebody expended liquor impacts their withdrawal manifestations. Individuals who drink regularly and a great deal encounter the most extraordinary withdrawal side effects. Basic manifestations include melancholy, nervousness, migraine, weakness, queasiness and retching, bad dreams, insecurity, fever, crabbiness, sleep deprivation, fast pulse, sweat, changes in body temperature, eagerness, craving misfortune, emotional episodes, bewilderment, subjective issues, shortcoming, elements that influence alcohol withdrawal. Regardless of whether an individual encounters liquor withdrawal and the seriousness of manifestations they encounter is controlled by various variables. These variables include hereditary qualities, digestion, a span of liquor misuse, the seriousness of liquor misuse, going without any weaning period versus decreasing, body weight, sexual orientation, age, basic emotional well-being concerns, maltreatment of different substances. Liquor withdrawal timeline. 1. Substantial consumers encountered tremors a couple of hours after their last beverage. Side effects amid the initial 12 hours incorporate perspiring, crabbiness, quick heartbeat, hypertension, sickness, retching, and sleep deprivation. 2. Side effects top 24 to 48 hours after the last beverage. Manifestations are most extreme and may incorporate seizures, night fear, mind flights, and fits of anxiety. 3. Continuous sentiments of apprehension, instability, and emotional episodes can last up to 7 days after the last beverage. Ridiculousness tremens may happen amid this time also. 4. After detox, some previous overwhelming consumers encounter longer enduring impacts of withdrawal. Manifestations are for the most part mental. They may incorporate emotional episodes, tension, fractiousness, changing dimensions of vitality, and inconvenience resting. These side effects come in waves and can keep going for a considerable length of time after the last beverage. How might you care for yourself at home? 1. Before you quit drinking, converse with your specialist about how you intend to stop. Make certain cutting straight to the chase with the person in question about the amount you have been drinking. Your specialist will make sense of whether you have to detox in a regulated medicinal focus. 2. Take your prescriptions precisely as recommended. Call your specialist or attendant to call line on the off chance that you think you are having an issue with your prescription. 3. Ensure somebody you trust is with you the entire time. Have loved ones alternate remaining with you until the point that you are finished with the detox. 4. Put a rundown of crisis numbers close to the telephone. This ought to incorporate your specialist, the police, the closest doctor's facility and crisis room, and neighbors who can help if necessary. 5. Ensure all liquor is expelled from the house before you begin. This incorporates drinks and also drugs, rubbing liquor, and certain flavorings like vanilla concentrate. 6. Continue drinking mates away amid the time you are experiencing detox. 7. Make your environment quiet. Delicate lights, fine music, and an agreeable place to sit or rest can help make the procedure less demanding. 8. Drink loads of liquids and eat snacks. For example, natural product, cheddar and wafers, and pretzels. Nourishments high in sugar may help lessen the craving for liquor. 9. Comprehend that detox will be hard. 10. Remember that the people looking out for you amid detox are there to help. Disclose to them before you begin that you may not act such as yourself until the point when detox is done. 11. Consider joining a care group. For example, Alcoholics Anonymous. Offering your encounters to other individuals who confront comparable difficulties may enable you to feel less overpowered. Chapter 11. Drugs used for detox. We all want a glass of wine after work, but one glass can turn to 2, and that can turn to the whole bottle. Later on, that whole bottle can become hard liquor. The thing about alcohol is that you can build up a tolerance, which means that you will need more and more of it in order to reach a pleasurable buzz. High alcohol consumption can lead to liver damage, encephalopathy, vitamin deficiency, and other issues. In fact, it can be very addicting to the point where you are craving for a drink in the morning. Luckily, there are medications that can help you combat alcohol addiction. Disulfiram. Disulfiram is one of the first medications that is approved for treating alcohol abuse and dependency. It works by causing unfavorable reactions when you consume alcohol. It's pretty much like negative reinforcement. This means that every time you take a sip of alcohol, you will vomit, have a headache, dizziness, or have any other unpleasant reaction. The goal is to psychologically deter you from drinking. The mechanism of action emphasizes on inhibiting aldehyde dehydrogenase, therefore increasing blood acetaldehyde concentration, therefore causing respiratory problems, nausea, vasodilation, flushing, and low blood pressure whenever someone takes a sip of alcohol. Unfortunately, this unfavorable reaction is the main side effect of the medication. This has become a problem for anyone who suffers from an allergic reaction or low blood pressure. If you already have low blood pressure, the medication can worsen your blood pressure to the point of experiencing respiratory collapse. Thus, it might not be a good choice for someone who has hypotension. Naltrexone. The purpose of naltrexone is to block the pleasure system in the brain that takes place when you drink alcohol. The medication is often used for people who are addicted to heroin and cocaine. In 1980, scientists had conducted a research on naltrexone and found that it has reduced alcohol consumption in animals. Then, in the late 80s and early 90s, they began human clinical trials. It has shown that naltrexone with psychosocial therapy can help significantly reduce relapse and alcohol craving. Because of its effectiveness, it has been widely used for people who are addicted to alcohol. Fortunately, like any medication, naltrexone does have side effects, like abdominal or stomach pain, anxiety, insomnia, joint or muscle pain, fatigue, nausea, and vomiting. Acamprosate. Acamprosate is the most recent medication that has been approved for the treatment of alcohol dependency. Its main function is to reduce emotional discomfort and physical distress during the quitting process. Usually, when you are in the process of quitting alcohol, you feel more anxious and depressed without the drugs in your system. Luckily, with acamprosate, it helps decrease this issue by altering the brain chemical signal. It was tested in 1982 to 1988 in France to treat alcoholism. It has been widely used throughout Europe in the past 20 years. It was not approved by the U.S. until July 2004. Unfortunately, it does have some side effects of nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, loss of appetite, drowsiness, dizziness, headache, and vision problems. Despite the side effects, the drug has proven to be highly effective in someone who is in the process of quitting alcohol. Topiramate. When you drink alcohol, you release GABA, which induces dopamine, a pleasure hormone. This is why you can relax and get buzzed after a drink. However, with the medication topiramate, it reduces the GABA and dopamine level, therefore decrease the pleasure system in your brain after a drink. This will prevent you from getting addicted and decrease the alcohol cravings, even though it's an anti-seizure medication, but it works very well with alcohol dependency. Despite the positive effects of the drug, it does have some unfavorable side effects, such as headaches, drowsiness, amenorrhea, and trouble concentrating. Conclusions. Being dependent on alcohol can be very dangerous. A high dosage can lead to liver and kidney damage. That is why it's essential to fight the addiction. With the right medication and therapy, you can experience a successful recovery. It's also important to have the proper support from friends and family. The fight to become sober and free from alcohol addiction might seem like an uphill battle, but with the right strategy, anyone can beat this. Chapter 12. Natural Detox. Introduction. Alcohol addiction is a nightmare that no one ever wishes to fall into. This is because it can cause permanent damage to the liver and the brain. It can also lead to dependency, which has the undesirable consequence of interfering with the normal day-to-day lives. It is for these reasons that deliberate steps have to be taken to mitigate this particular problem. Our goal in the preceding conversations shall be to explore the natural treatments and remedies for alcoholism you may make use of. Natural treatments and remedies for alcoholism. Number 1, detoxification. This is the elimination of toxins from the human body using natural interventions. The main detoxification methods are periodic fasting, drinking of plenty of water, and abstinence from any strong or alcoholic beverages. It requires a great deal of patience and supervision owing to its extremely daunting nature. Number 2, intakes of nutritional supplements. Some natural supplements also aid in detoxification and the stabilization of mood. These are high-potency multivitamin preparations which contain plenty of B vitamins and chromium. The B vitamin supplements are crucial for the regeneration of the depleted nutrients in the body. Chromium, on the other hand, stabilizes the blood sugar levels, which in turn alleviates cravings. Number 3, diet. Active alcoholics are often susceptible to the risks of hypoglycemia and blood sugar variability. It is therefore necessary to alter the diets appropriately in a bid to reverse the trends. With regards to this, well-balanced meals should be taken daily. These meals should comprise sufficient amounts of fresh fruits, nuts, whole grains, lean animal proteins, and beans. Number 4, Herbalism. Herbalism refers to the use of plant derivatives and constituent components to mitigate alcohol abuse and addictions. By far, the most reliable herb for the job is the milk thistle, Silybum marianum. This herb is a potent liver regenerator and detoxifier. When taken in sufficient quantities, it has the ability to aid in the elimination of toxins in the blood. It does so primarily by reinvigorating the workings of the liver to do its job. Number 5. Regular exercising. It is no secret that exercising has the ability to release stress, aid in digestion, invigorate the heartbeat, boost the circulation of blood, and induce a sense of feeling high that is mainly occasioned by the release of the endorphins hormones. It is for these reasons that you also want to incorporate as much exercising as possible at any given time. Number 6. Meditation. To effectively quit drinking, a great deal of mental discipline and self-control is necessary. As a matter of fact, most people resort to drinking to cope with some inherent issues and relieve stress. This is where medication comes in handy. It has the ability to supplant the need for drinking in order to handle the stated issues and problems. The practice entails the setting aside of a few minutes for the sake of maintaining focus and attention. It also serves the role of deepening a particular thought or course of action. Number 7. Acupuncture. Acupuncture is a Chinese traditional method of treating a couple of mental and physical conditions. It thus can help in the mitigation of the side effects of alcoholism. When applied appropriately, the practice stimulates the production of energy and combating stress. This is because it releases high levels of endorphins, which reduces anxiety and suppresses excessive body pain. The end results are the stimulation of wellness and overall good health. Number 8. Nutritional counseling. As has already been hinted, alcoholism does interfere with your diet and nutrition significantly. Nearly all persons with the problem of alcoholism will often be deprived of essential nutrients in one way or another. It is not possible to make a substantive comeback without an appropriate nutritional advisory. You, therefore, have to invoke the assistance of a qualified dietitian to walk you through the remedy process. Number 9. Change of friendships and associations. Bad company corrupts good morals indeed. You can never hope to completely break free from alcoholism while still retaining the same friends and associations you had while actively drinking. In light of this, you have to take deliberate steps to disassociate yourself from those persons. This is to reduce the temptation of indulging in drinking or visiting a bar or drinking dens. Number 10. Light therapy. One of the most adverse side effects of alcoholism is poor quality sleep. This manifests itself in such issues as insomnia, sleep apnea, parasomnia, and narcolepsy, to mention but a few. To reverse this particular trend, light therapy could be used alongside other measures, of course. This basically involves the exposure to excessively bright artificial lighting during the moments when you are awake. It reduces depress and gives rise to a more natural sleep cycle. Conclusion. There you have them. You truly have the various natural options you might explore to combat the alcohol addiction problem. The onus is therefore on your part to select the most suitable option for your use and make good use of it. Chapter 13. Alcoholics Anonymous and 12 Steps. What is Alcoholics Anonymous? Alcoholics Anonymous is a global organization designed to help former alcoholics to help each other in their recovery journey. The membership of this organization is open to anyone who wants to do something about his or her drinking problem. The organization was founded in 1935 by Dr. Bob Smith in Ohio. Today, it can be found in almost every city across the United States and around the world. It was suggested that the founders pay more attention to scientific methods of alcoholism treatment rather than the common aspects of recovery. The founders worked together for a while under the Oxford Group. However, in 1935, they broke up after they were criticized for their practices. Although they kept several elements of the original Oxford Group, such as holding informal meetings, they made many changes. Anyone may attend open meetings. There are two types of AA meetings. They include open meetings. It is usually open to the public. Closed meetings. It is held mainly for its members. It is only those people with drinking problems who are allowed to attend these closed meetings or become full AA members. If you have any other problem other than alcoholism, you are only eligible for membership if you have a drinking problem too. In short, the only sure qualification to AA membership is that desire to stop drinking. This organization encourages its members to share their experiences with any person seeking to quit drinking problem. A typical meeting is actually a discussion meeting. The person leading the meeting often chooses a topic, and the members share their experiences regarding that topic. People who have been to any AA meeting knows what to expect in that meeting. The scientific study of its efficiency is limited mainly due to its confidential nature of the program. The members discourage endorsements from outside enterprises. How can you find an AA meeting? Alcoholics Anonymous meetings are usually listed in the white pages of almost every local telephone book. The intergroup and the central office are located on the AA website. What should you expect in an AA meeting? The meeting is mostly held in a building connected to a church or a community hall. When you arrive there, you will find out that most of the people cited there are addicts. In most cases, outside the hall, people are making some coffee and chatting. After everyone has settled, you will find some 50 people seated in a circle. The chair of that meeting sits in the middle of the circle. The meeting will begin when the chair reads AA group prayer. Afterwards, members will briefly read the promises of the organization. The chairperson asks if there are newcomers who have never attended the meeting. It is not mandatory for you to raise your hand if you are one of them. After everyone completes sharing his or her experiences, the chairperson asks if there are any related announcements to be made. Here, everyone stands in a large circle and recites the prayer. Once the prayer is over, the meeting ends. Moreover, different meetings have different ways of doing things, but in most cases, they follow the same procedure. Though not in all meetings, people are randomly called to share their experiences. This prevents them from shying off and also making quieter people talk. Some meetings are purely discussion meetings, where the topic is randomly picked and derived from the interest of the members. In speakers' meetings, a person is chosen to talk about their experiences, strength, and challenges about their recovery. How is AA organized? It is not run by a leadership team rather than members who have recovered as addicts and had that desire to help others. It is this organizational structure that has propelled the success of this organization. Today, it has more than 2 million members worldwide and currently made up of 100,000 groups. Though some of the groups have committees which ensure that the activities of the organization are run in order, many of the groups are self-run. Normally, these committees' members are assigned duties typically for several years. At the end of the term, members will vote on a new person. The rotation of the leadership positions allows the individual members to be active as they want in their process of recovery. What are the basics of AA? The Alcoholics Anonymous 12-Step Program is a free treatment program for people suffering from alcohol abuse and addiction. The program uses a spiritual approach that may include a belief in a higher power. Members have the mandate to define the high power in their way. Becoming a member is free. Meetings are only held in public places such as schools and churches. This program uses a set of recovery steps to achieve and maintain abstinence from alcohol. Who are the AA sponsors? A sponsor in AA is simply that person who guides you through the program of AA and more so on the 12 steps of recovery. He or she is generally that person who has a higher level of sobriety and feels comfortable and willing to guide others in their difficult times. A sponsor is a simple and understanding person who you can trust and ask about the problems associated with alcohol. Having a sponsor is very vital for the 12 Steps recovery. If you attend AA meetings, you will often hear the group talk about the sponsorship and how to become a sponsor. Additionally, when you are new to sobriety, you have a lot of questions and concerns that a sponsor can help you address. Though it is not a must for you to agree on everything that your sponsor says, some of their ideas are very real. Each member of AA is assigned a sponsor, although you are advised to choose that sponsor whom you can relate well and that one you are comfortable with. Therefore, when choosing a sponsor, pick one who has a sense of sobriety that you desire. The main goal here is to have someone who will help your growth in the program. What are the responsibilities of sponsors in AA? In AA, the sponsorship program is beneficial to all parties involved. If a sponsor helps another person, they end up helping themselves and strengthening their sobriety. This makes it easier for them to live without alcohol. Also, it allows the addicts to take action by passing the message of sobriety to others. In most cases, the very successful sponsors are men and women who have been in AA long enough to have a clear understanding of the AA programs outlined in 12 steps. As a sponsor, you are supposed to have the willingness, patience, and complete understanding to devote to new members. Here are some of the numerous sponsors' responsibilities. He or she encourages the sponsee to attend different AA meetings so that they can obtain several interpretations of the program. Suggest to sponsee to keep an open mind about AA and the alcohol use disorder. Explains the 12 Steps program to new members or any other new group. Show and guide a new member on AA literature, like the Big Book and 12 Traditions. Offer the required guidance to the sponsee through the 12 steps and then encourage him or her to pass what they have learned when in the program. Leads as a good role model through a drinking history that AA can do for a personal life. How can one be a good sponsor? The rules of being a good sponsor are not set in stone. Each one has their own recovery program in AA. This means that every sponsorship program is unique, depending on the member being sponsored. It is required that all sponsors approach their sponsorship with their morals and experiences. Some sponsors may be too tough, such that they may prefer their sponsee to call them every day, while others are too casual and that they only require their sponsee to seek for advice and ask questions. questions. For you to be a good sponsor, you need to have the qualities of patience, compassion, and gift of time. In regards to that, the best thing you can do is to share your experience hope with the newcomers. If you strive for progress but not perfection, for sure the power of the 12 steps will work efficiently. Since recovery is a lifelong process, there is no wrong way to approach the 12 steps, as the participant tries to figure out what works best for their individual needs. Here are the 12 steps as defined by Alcoholics Anonymous. 1. We admitted we had no power over alcohol and our lives had become unmanageable. Although this step is the first towards sobriety, most of the members don't take this step once. Normally, participants work on this step many times. Here are some ways to follow this step. Work with a counselor or get an AA sponsor. By seeking help with your alcohol problem, you admit that you are powerless to stop drinking on your own. Your counselor will help you learn strategies that will help you quit drinking. Tell someone if you drink. Any person who is trying to get sober gets ashamed if they slip up and have a drink. But if you keep your mistakes to yourself, will only make you appear as if you are in control when you are not. Speak at an AA meeting. Some AA meetings gives the members a chance to speak. 2. We came to be aware that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. It seems to be uncomfortable because it encourages alcoholics to believe in God. For this reason, alcoholics who have a shaky religious belief avoid this step. You can use step 2 in these ways. Talk with AA members about their experiences. Talking to other people will help you get some perspective. Think about what inspires you to be sober. Be open to new ideas about this step. 3. Decided to dedicate our lives to God. Some alcoholics drink to forget painful things in their lives. Therefore, through this step, they can be able to cover up what they are passing through. 4. Made a clear and fearless moral understanding of ourselves. This step requires a clear understanding of oneself. It leads you to clearly understand your individual ability. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. It not only requires an alcoholic to admit the exact nature of his or her wrongs, but also to embark on the honest self-evaluation of their faults. 6. We are entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. It mainly requires the participant to become willing to look at their bad characters and the Almighty to help them change completely. 7. Humbly ask Him to eliminate our problems. To benefit from this step, you will need to approach God as if you understand Him with an attitude of accomplishing something special. 8. Made a list of all persons we had offended in the past. The essence main aim of this step is to come to terms with the actions and also take an individual task for any harm you have caused to another person. 9. Made direct amends to people only if it could not injure them. It requires the alcoholic to go any length to make amends. The individual must be willing to take this step no matter how severe the personal consequences. 10. Continue to take a self-evaluation. Its purpose is to demonstrate to yourself that you can control yourself. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. It encourages people to accept what plans God have for their lives. Members are advised to recognize their higher power and allow Him to inspire them to their recovery journey. 12. Having a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. Requires the alcoholic to have a spiritual awakening as a result of completing the previous steps of AA. Chapter 14. Treatment in the UK. Many people suffer from alcohol addiction. and others don't even know how much harm alcohol is doing to their health and social life. The journey to alcohol treatment starts by accepting that you have a problem and you need help. This is the most difficult point of alcohol treatment, but it's important to remember that you're not going to be alone in the journey, as there are millions of people suffering from the same problem. Some have been treated and can testify to how well they are doing after undergoing rehab. There are a number of options in regard to alcohol treatment, and the option you choose will depend on the magnitude of the effect. The available treatment options include detox program, inpatient, and outpatient care. Detox. This is the first treatment option where you're required to quit drinking and take some time to allow alcohol traces to disappear from your system. This is sometimes difficult, especially if the addiction has gone to the extent where you completely depend on alcohol. Others are, however, able to quit drinking by themselves. There are side effects like anxiety, panic attack, nausea, and vomiting that can make it difficult for a person to quit alcohol without professional help. You are also at risk of suffering withdrawal symptoms if you try quitting by yourself. It also means dealing with many temptations which may be difficult to overcome, especially since you have to stay away from your drinking buddies. Visiting a rehab facility can make the process easier since you stay away from friends and get professional help and support. This will also increase your success rate and quicken the recovery process. Outpatient rehab. This is a rehab treatment option suitable for patients who have been struggling with addiction for a short time. It is also the best option for those people who cannot stay away from home or workplaces. Some rehabs require you to attend a rehab facility on a daily basis, while others may even schedule a weekly treatment. They offer treatment programs like cognitive behavioral therapy, counseling, mental health treatment, Alcoholics Anonymous, group therapy, and contingency management. You're also taught about nutrition needs, side effects, among other important details. Residential, inpatient treatment. While other options for addressing alcohol addiction also have notable success rates, many people agree that inpatient treatments are the most effective since they are intense and concentrated. This type of treatment is suitable for those who have suffered addiction for a long time. Another advantage of inpatient treatment is that it is offered in a safe environment free from temptations. The atmosphere is usually peaceful and free from distractions. Patients who want privacy can focus more on their treatment and worry less about attracting other people's attention. Patients have unlimited access to professional help and healthcare facilities that can quicken their recovery and help them stay sober. They undergo all the necessary teachings, counseling, and therapy. These rehab centers accept patients with government funding as well as private health insurance covers. Resources available to the public. Since there are millions of people suffering from addiction in the UK and the world at large, there are many resources available to the public to help with awareness. Some of these resources include online course materials. There are several online course materials available in the world's best universities that provide information on the psychology behind addiction. These materials include drug addiction and mental disorder, the psychology of taste and addiction, drug and the brain, etc. Research organizations. Since addiction is a serious public concern, there are many research organizations which are dedicated to finding ways to prevent addiction and various treatment options. Professional organizations. Professional organizations, which also consist of doctors, play a huge role in ensuring people have access to alcohol addiction information and they get all the help they need. Public awareness organizations. While many people in the UK suffer from alcohol addiction, some people have hard times accepting their condition, while others are just ignorant about it. Public awareness organizations are here to help the public with information about addiction. Charity organizations. Charity organizations also come into play to help alcohol addicts recover and find their place in society. They also provide free counseling and treatment options for the patients. Conclusion. Alcohol addiction is very difficult to overcome. However, if you have the willingness to do so and accept that you have a problem, it will be easier for you to defeat it. A quick recovery starts by accepting your situation and commencing with your treatment as soon as possible. Some of the resources available to those living in the UK are: AddAction is a UK-wide treatment agency that helps individuals, families, and communities manage the effects of drug and alcohol misuse. AdFam is a national charity working with families affected by drugs and alcohol. Al-Anon Family Groups offers support and understanding to the families and friends of problem drinkers, whether they're still drinking or not. Drinkline is the national alcohol helpline. Call 0300-123-1110. Weekdays, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Weekends, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Chapter 15. Recovery Plan. Most people, when they complete their treatment for alcohol abuse, they tend to feel unsure on what they should do next with their lives. More so, if you had abused alcohol for an extended period, this may have turned into a routine. And changing one's routine is a bit challenging, but it is possible. Are you stuck wondering what to do once you are done with your addiction treatment? An alcohol recovery plan can help protect you from relapse and help you adapt to the new changes in your life. What is an alcohol recovery plan? Before we get down to the specifics, you need to know that recovery is not a one-time thing. It is an ongoing process that requires you to change your behavior and some aspects of your life. An alcohol recovery plan requires a mindful and thoughtful approach that will grant you the strength to recover. In simple words, an alcohol recovery plan is a set of guidelines, objectives, and methods that help you thrive during recovery. These guidelines keep you focused, motivated, hopeful about life. It ideally gives you strength during the difficult times in your life. Remember, an alcohol recovery plan isn't a magic pill. It won't make all things better overnight. The plan will require a lot of tweaking so that it suits your needs and new lifestyle. An ideal alcohol recovery plan should entail behavioral change. Make sure that you incorporate most of the skills that you learned during your treatment period. Be as honest as possible. But how do you develop an alcohol recovery plan? Developing an alcohol recovery plan requires a lot of self-interrogation. You need to set some time aside and ask yourself what really can help me thrive during my recovery. It is advisable also to seek help from a professional guidance counselor. If you are in a rehabilitation program, feel free to ask for assistance in developing an alcohol recovery plan. You will be presented with a working template of an alcohol recovery plan that you can edit and follow. You can also do your research and compare different alcohol recovery plans. From your research, you can be assured of finding a plan that can meet your goals and objectives. Make sure that you note down your recovery plan on a notebook, your computer, or a smartphone. Below are tips on how to create an alcohol recovery plan. 1. Include a wellness toolbox. A wellness toolbox is an essential part of an alcohol recovery plan. It entails a list of practices that gives you happiness, confidence, and gratitude. You can include some of your hobbies in this toolbox. Also, adding some of the activities you practice during treatment can also give you a smooth recovery. Include as many activities as possible. Don't stick to the things you liked in the past only. Add some new things. You can always modify it as time goes by. 2. Develop a daily maintenance plan. In this section, you should write down a list of things that should keep you focused and on track to sobriety. The daily maintenance plan should ensure you are feeling well at all times, your dreams and goals are in check, and you are living a healthy life. 3. Create a reminder list. During alcohol recovery, you may find it difficult keeping up with your day-to-day activities. Creating a reminder list helps you get your thoughts and responsibilities organized. If you have been tasked with any responsibilities, make sure you write it down here and cross-check it when you accomplish it. A reminder list can help you during alcohol recovery since it enables one to integrate smoothly back into his or her ordinary routine. 4. Be aware of your triggers. During alcohol abuse treatment, you and your support team must have identified the triggers that can lead you to use. This should be an essential part of your alcohol recovery plan. Being aware of one's triggers and completely avoiding them helps you avoid relapses. Make sure that you write down any triggers. This will help you learn how to avoid them. Learn different techniques such as meditation, which can help you avoid triggers. 5. Include a support network in your plan. During recovery, one needs all the help he or she can get. In your alcohol recovery plan, you need to include a support network. In this period, you might feel isolated and lonely. A support network encourages you and boosts your confidence. You can seek support from friends, family, or therapists. Implement the alcohol recovery plan. Once you have finally developed an alcohol recovery plan, you need to follow it strictly. It is best if you involve a close friend or relative that will assist you in adapting to the new changes in your life. Remember to be patient with the recovery plan and dedicate all your efforts in ensuring a successful recovery. The key to successful recovery from alcohol abuse is never giving up. Chapter 16. Preventing a relapse. The hardest part when you are undergoing a rehabilitation process for alcoholism is to avoid relapse. The desire to just have a few shots of liquor, even as you try to stay sober, can be overwhelming and hard to resist. Many patients give in to the desire and eventually end up relapsing. They go back to square one and pick up the addiction problem from where they left. In fact, some patients' drinking habits now become worse than ever, and they end up doing more harm to themselves than before. But fortunately, there are proven steps that can be taken to avoid relapse when trying to stay sober and maybe eventually quit alcohol altogether. 1. Avoid hanging out with drinkers or in places where there is alcohol. As a former alcohol addict, the majority of people you have on your friends list are obviously drunkards too. Nevertheless, the venues you ever know for hangouts are pubs, bars, and other similar venues. At this point in your life, you need to turn away from those friends and those places. Otherwise, by holding on to them, you put yourself in a constant temptation to drink again. With that, you may fall into the temptation one day, and that will ruin all the efforts you have made to turn your life around. 2. Stop thinking about drinking alcohol. you are going to be thinking about drinking and all the fun that you used to have from that. You are going to miss your drinking buddies and the bars as well as pubs that used to be an important part of your life. As a result, the temptation to drink once more, before you call it quits, is going to be too strong. This is the part where you need to control your mind and not let your mind control you instead. Anytime alcohol thoughts come into your mind, try to replace them with thoughts of positive things. For example, think about how you will start saving money once you quit liquor. Think about the best job you want to have or the business you want to start once your life returns to normal. 3. Make yourself busy with positive activities. Another great way to avoid relapse when trying to stay sober from alcohol is to occupy yourself with positive activities. Do exercise, play sports, or pursue your hobby. Being idle makes you start thinking about negative things, in your case, drinking liquor. Keep idleness at bay by involving yourself in a productive activity at any one time. 4. Substitute alcohol with non-alcoholic drinks. You do not have to struggle to fight the temptation to drink alcohol on your own every time it comes your way. Whenever you feel a burning desire to drink alcohol, take a non-alcoholic substitute. There are plenty of soft drinks out there that taste like alcohol, even though they are actually non-alcoholic. Final thoughts. Alcoholism is a serious problem that can turn your life upside down. Thank God you realized that and started working towards restoring your life. The biggest challenge you face now is a relapse. Even though you are trying to stay sober, that urge to drink just a little bit of liquor and then continue with your journey to sobriety seems to be growing stronger by the day. To fight off that urge and eventually overcome it completely, consider the tips above. This has been Alcohol Abuse and Addiction, Understanding Alcoholism and Overcoming It. Written by Rodney Cannon, narrated by Rachel Lane. Copyright 2019 by Rodney Cannon. Production copyright by Rodney Cannon.